but I do believe that the competencies that we're going over right now, competencies 1 and 2 specifically, getting to know your students are like the meat and potato of things, um, because domain 2, it's not about creating a beautiful, like insta perfect. I know that's a really big deal for like teachers right now to have their classrooms be insta perfect, but that's not what makes a place positive and productive. I've worked some bare bones summer school where it's not my classroom. I can't do anything with it. And we had the best time. And it was the most amazing, positive environment. It's about the people and the discussions, the way that you make people feel, the activities that you do, and not just by the things that you say to them, by the activities you prepare to allow them to grow, because that's what makes someone feel good. Man, I did that and it was really hard. And then that is such a beautiful feeling that words can't, like even my saying you job well done, even that it can't, replace it. So it's not about being insta perfect. And domain 2 is about what sort of things we can do, with our communication, with our activities, with our structure, with our routines in order to create a cohesive, productive, positive environment. Implementation is and our responsiveness, the way that we implement the plan that we designed in domain 1. That's what domain 3 is all about. Taking our information, never forgetting everything that we know about our students, where they are in their human growth and development, what varied ways they're different and diverse, and ways in which we need to support and bring in things to scaffold, ways to make them shine, so that we are offering responsive, active instruction with them, giving active feedback, assessing them consistently, and not just assessing them and like collecting the data and then scurrying away for our grade book, like communicating that information, that observation that we made, and utilizing that as a means for reteach right then and there. That's what responsive instruction is about. Our assessment is not for the grade book. It really isn't. That's not, I mean, like I know that that's what, for the students, that's kind of what they think it is for. And there are some teachers where that's all that they assess for, is just the required, assessments for the grade book, however much their district demands or has in policy. But that's not the purpose pedagogically of an assessment. An assessment is a gathering of data that we use to see where are you in measurement to our goal, which is the academic learning objective. And so when we plan, we plan ahead based on what we know of our students and what they need, what they can do, what they like to do, what they're interested in, what will resonate because it makes sense from their real world experiences, and try to get them to make connections with that content knowledge, building their social emotional skills, building their self-confidence. I mean, it's a whole child approach. And then we have the last domain, which is about our professional responsibilities. And we just got off domain, for those of you who are sort of regulars in my PPR classes, we just got off domain 4 a week ago. And not for nothing, we are professionals that deserve respect. We don't demand it. Teachers have been sort of maligned in public discourse and in communities, but you guys are the MVPs of society, from which all other professional roles and responsibilities come from. And so with that, there's a whole bunch of responsibility. So we never stop learning. We have a huge responsibility to the community to hold ourselves at a certain like level of propriety, to be the safeguard for our students, all of them, even if they're not ours of record. For child abuse purposes, we are the hugest safeguard. It's us and doctors. And not a lot of child abusers take their children to see the pediatrician. So we are the largest safeguard against child abuse. And domain 4 is about recognizing and understanding all of the varied ways, not just in the classroom, not just our professional roles and responsibilities with the students, which is the largest part. We also hold other responsibilities, to make communication and build partnerships with the parents, so that we're better and more effective in class, and in the role as an educator and an influencer, of someone who can enact growth and change within the student. So that's that in a nutshell. And here are the standards. So we are going to, before we begin the PowerPoint, I want to show you the ELPS resources, because remember, in Competency 2, one of the sort of substandards there refers directly to the ELPS, the English Language Proficiency Standards. And here is the ELPS, like the document itself. And we broke this down. This is an example of like me annotating and breaking down. I'm summarizing. Beginners, when they're speaking, they have no English, zero. Mainly simple words, possibly no, yes, that, or they'll pick up high frequency words. So this is a sort of the law breakdown of all of the descriptors that we have. And this wonderful tool breaks down for us the proficiency standards. And will you guys hold on for just one moment? My dog is over there whining, and I think I'm gonna have to let him out and come right back. I'm gonna pause this. Thank you to whomever it is that read. ELLs need instructional activities and learning tools specifically designed to build on what they already know, to allow them to comfortably use newly acquired English, which is why we need to know our students. Competency 2 is about their diversity. 2 of those substandards within that competency are specifically about ELL students. And within that pocket, like ELL is a keyword or phrase for a like red flag, not a red flag, but a diversity, like a factor, a characteristic, this person is diverse. But within that category of English language learners, there are so many very diverse types of English language learner within them. And so we need to learn our students, know our students, know about them, their interests, their past experiences, in order to be able to do the things that need to be done for the students to actively acquire English and grow in their grade level content specific objectives. Thus, academic tasks must support the development of effective communication and understanding of oral and written forms of language for successful content attainment. What does that mean in layman's terms? Every single classroom should be listening, speaking, reading, and writing. Listening, speaking, reading, and writing. You are in a math class? Cool. You're listening, speaking, reading, and writing about math. Think, pair, share. I asked you a question about the math thing, told you to explain your steps and what parts were difficult. You write it down, you turn to your partner, you explain the steps you took, what you found difficult, you discuss it amongst each other, you turn around, we do a whole group discussion. Raise your hand if you'd like to share. At that point, more people are willing to share because they've practiced it, even if they're ELL students. We have to provide opportunities, though, for our ELL students to practice, and not just our ELL students. This is the best practice for everyone. We want all of our students, even native English speakers, to feel comfortable talking about these content specific words, talking about the processes that they used for this math problem, and talking about the things they're doing in a content specific way. Certainly our ELL students need more support than our native English speakers, because some of them lack even the social language with which to interact. So this document does an amazing job, and I'm not going to spend too much time on this particular document today, because I do have a video, and we did go over it in great detail a couple of classes ago, and that video is on YouTube, where we go through, like, this is the law, and we go through what does it mean to have instruction that is focused, targeted, and systematic, so that second language acquisition takes place. And because this document gives you particular examples, it's so good. Like, I love TEA for once putting out some good junk. Hope they don't get mad at me for saying that. But very often the stuff that they produce is not useful. And this was very useful. And this breaks down what can you do to be focused in your instruction? What can you do to be targeted in your instruction? What can you do to be systematic in your instruction? Pre-teaching academic and social vocabulary. I've talked about that over and over again. My students think I'm a broken record, but please, if you're a teacher and you're going to use any new, unfamiliar, or challenging vocabulary in your lesson, you must pre-teach that vocabulary, especially if you have ELL students. It will impede in comprehension. Even if you're going to, if you know you're going to use it in conversation, you're not going to read it. You're going to use a word, they might not understand it. Let's go over it beforehand, because what happens when you don't understand a word, your brain tries to decode it. Even if you don't have the skills with which to decode effectively, what your brain is doing is no longer listening to whatever it is that you're saying. You're stuck on the one word that you don't have comprehension of. It happens in reading and it happens in speech. And so now I'm all behind, and now I'm totally lost because I have limited English proficiency. So in order to circumvent that and be focused with our instruction, let's pre-teach any unfamiliar vocabulary that we might be utilizing, building background knowledge. So when you get time, guys, on your own, I want for you to print this out, read this document. It's not like it doesn't read like stereo instructions, it's bulleted, there's graphics, it gives you real examples. And if you were to print this document out, take notes on it, like read these different chunks, like after you read the systematic, what it means to be systematic, put in your own words, in my own words, paraphrasing what that is that you're doing. After you've read something critically and then put it in your own words and kinesthetically write it down, you are internalizing, you're doing a cognitive exercise, because you're taking what you understood, you're utilizing a metacognitive skill by paraphrasing it into something which is your understanding, and then writing it down. That tactile, motion internalizes that new knowledge, making it retrievable for later. It's why we have the students do it. So, and it also, like I said before, when I was speaking to you about just how this is a mental marathon, this exam in itself, because you really have to be very a critical reader and see what are they asking you, what keywords and phrases are there, what's best practice, does this happen in the beginning, during, or after instruction takes place, because we do different things and look for different things at different times. That sort of mental marathon and critical thinking, you will be exercising for it by doing a deep reading of this document, by doing a deep reading of your standards and annotating them for your particular understanding. So I'm gonna get off my annotation horse, and I'm like, guys, I can't explain enough how much I love this document. Just gonna right here. Ooh, my little ones just got here. I'm very excited for that. Give me one moment, ladies and gentlemen. Hello, my nubbies. My hand's sweaty. Oh my God, you're so sweaty. Okay, thanks.
Bye, girls. I love you.
Bye, Daddy. I'll miss you.
See you soon, okay?
Love you, babe. Bye, Jewel.
I had socks on.
I know.
And it fit me.
Oh my goodness, I'm on a session and it's being recorded. Go over there with Zoe Burr. She's in the sala.
Okay. Did you take some?
Sorry, guys. So here is the listening sort of breakdown, and they show you the descriptors, and we just looked at the long version of it, right? That I was showing you the different descriptors, and it sort of was just a PDF. But this goes a step further. It doesn't just give you the descriptors in each of the areas. It goes further and gives you actual classroom activities, teacher supports, and what you should see as a student outcome. Reduces anxiety to increase participation if you do these things. So please have a good, nice, deep look at that. Oh, I already have it open. It's over here. At that document. So just very quickly, domain 1, all about designing instruction and assessment for all students. Your PPR exam, what all students mean for the purposes of this PPN. This is not true for your job, because whatever your content area is, it's a particular age group, right? Some people are EC through 6, early child through 6th grade. Some people are 4 through 8. That's the middle group, middle-aged children. And some people are 7 through 12. But for the purposes of this exam, everyone is responsible to know and understand what is normal, theoretically and research-based for human growth and development, and how that affects, or what the implications are for us when we're planning instruction that is appropriate for all students. So competency 1, all about human growth and development, the teacher understanding the developmental process and applying this knowledge to plan instruction and ongoing assessments that motivate students and are responsive to their developmental characteristics and needs. So it is our job to motivate students. I've heard some teachers say it's not my job to like be fun or exciting. Oh no, actually it is. It's our job to motivate them. Can't motivate them by being boring. Sorry, it's never happened. So it is sort of our job to be fun and interesting, to find ways to make it interesting. So age group, grade level, there's many areas to growth and development: physical, social, emotional, psychosocial. And I have this for you in things that affect social emotional development: homelessness, lack of affection or attention at home, parental divorce, family death, moving, food insecurity, a student's social. And these are all ways in which they are going to be diverse as well. I can take this like slide and I can copy and paste it and place it under competency 2, because it matters. Competency 1 matters a little bit with competency 2 as well. The different age groups that they're in and the different sort of stages of development within that age group is a way in which they're different and diverse, and things that we need to take into consideration when we're planning activities and providing scaffolds and strategies of support. A student's social emotional support development impacts development of all other domains: their cognitive development, their physical development, their affective development, how they feel about themselves. So many of our students experience parental divorce, parental alienation. So many students have experienced a death in the family, especially since COVID. All of our students are traumatized. Just automatically assume because I'm traumatized. Everyone is traumatized after the experiences that we went through in the past 3 years. And that's not even counting what went on before. So taking that into consideration and being empathetic and being sort of a soft place and a safe place for our students to land, and a fun place. It is their learning experience, and they should look back upon it with joy. Stages of play are very important and can be utilized throughout all of the areas, EC through 12. Help students learn life skills, decision-making skills, organization skills, goal-setting skills, self-direction, self-assessment, workplace skills like being on time and keeping your word. Recognize challenges in later childhood and adolescence. Self-image, physical appearance. Oops, sorry guys. Where did it go? Physical appearance, eating disorders, feelings of rebelliousness that when I saw students acting out or trying to be rebellious, it's like I always sort of like investigated and prodded, and there was something going on in their world where they felt like they didn't have control, and so that they were like acting out in a way like, I can control this if I act out or not, or if I do this or not. It was like a way to feel, I don't know, in control in a situation that was like felt out of control for them. So identity formation is happening in, childhood and adolescence. So we have to be cognizant of that. Don't be making jokes at the expense of a child. I don't care what kind of like relationship you feel that they have. They might feel like that you have a good relationship too, and maybe that joke that kind of hurt my feelings means something. They're not fully formed brains, and what we say is meaningful and important to them, and we should be their place of encouragement. Not to say that we're blowing just only accolades at them, really being somebody who wants the best for them, who's going to have difficult conversations, but is going to be there to support them to achieve their goals. Educational decisions, career decisions. If you're dealing with students that are in the high school areas, students need support addressing varied life challenges, and teachers are the real MVPs because we're there to be the listening ear for all of it. It used to make me sad when students would call me mom or ask me if they could call me mom, because I knew what that meant. And although I did feel flattered that they felt like I was a safe place and like a substitute, it made me sad that they needed to. I know none of my daughters would ever. In fact, I think one time my son accidentally called his teacher mom, but he came home and he was mortified. It was an accident. It was a slip of the tongue. He was like, I do not feel like she's my mom. It was so embarrassing. I've never done that before. But this was can I call you mom? And what do you say to that? It's heartbreaking. But you have to be a leg of support and be with the child, the little baby sometimes still needs. So we were at diversity on Wednesday. Diversity, the teacher understanding student diversity, and there's so many ways that the students are diverse. But diversity is not just about how the students are different. It's you being able to plan for differences, utilizing your knowledge of variation and planning for variation, bringing in elements of variation, giving different varied assessments for that variation, being responsive to the differences amongst your students, and utilizing that knowledge of difference, bringing that into your instruction and assessment in order to promote learning for all students. Not an easy ask, but the more you teach, the more you talk to your and collaborate with colleagues, on what they're doing in their classroom for a certain thing, to build your repertoire of skills and activities and ways in which to support a particular student with a particular diversity. Different ways that students can be diverse. Obviously, some of the general ways, but we get into some of the more specific, nuanced ways. These are some of the more obvious ways: ethnicity, gender, language, background, exceptionality, and skill. But there's, a significance and an impact of student diversity, an implication for teaching or implication for learning activities and assessments. What is the implication? The implication is that we need to get to know all of our students, create that inclusive environment when making instructional and management modification based on the understanding and the needs of our students, who they are and what they need, in order for the environment and the activities to be most effective for all. And that's the goal. It's a huge experiment. We have an academic learning objective, and that is meant to be effective. The plan is meant to be effective for all. It's a huge ask, but teachers do it every day in amazing ways. I've seen it in classrooms in my first year interns, implementing just the most effective instruction, classroom management, and support of the burgeoning humans in their classroom. Create a classroom environment that promotes positive behavior and enhances student learning. Positive behavior begins and ends with you. If you are promoting negative behavior with your actions towards anyone, then that will manifest itself and will be learned, because they are always watching us and they are not yet solidified as humans. Boys aren't even solidified cognitively until I think it's 21, research says. So they're always watching, they're always looking to see, how do the adults I look up to behave in their lives with other people. Accept and respect your students with diverse backgrounds and needs. It's not an option, people. It is your job to accept and respect students with diverse backgrounds and needs. It's in our PPR standards, which means it is codified in law, went before the Texas legislature. It is our job, regardless if we agree with it or not. Developmental difference by age, cognitive area, the physical area, learning styles, gender, sexual orientation, language, cultural diversity, exceptionality, students who are at risk, socioeconomic status, immigration status. You accept and respect all students from diverse backgrounds and you support their needs. It is the law. It is our job. And it's a beautiful job that we have, actually. I happen to think it's the most beautiful and noble job that there is. We went over the cognitive area last time. I'm not going to spend too much time going through this. I didn't post the video yet, but I will today after I post today's. More important to know is that our students are not intelligent in just one way. You're not just good at writing essays and at math. There are so many ways in which our students are brilliant. Look for those ways. Seek out those ways. Expect our students to be different. Do not expect them to master in the same way. For one lesson with one activity to be one size fits all and for everyone to excel. That's not going to happen. Everyone's different. Expect it to be different. Look for the potential because it's there. Understand the developmental differences, right, by age, the age group and grade level. When we're reading and practicing the questions, doing our testing strategies in just a bit, I'm going to ask you what age group or grade level. It doesn't always mean it has some bearing on which is the most appropriate, most beneficial, most effective answer choice, but more often than not, it is the case. So remember Piaget's and what that means, right? The early child, they don't yet have this like abstract thinking. It's very concrete. I need to see and do and have manipulatives, examples. And that plays a hand in how we plan for a certain age group instructional activities. It also helps us understand why certain age group need solid routines and procedures between during transition periods, transition of activities, because they need that structure. Erickson's, Colbert's moral reasoning and other sort of theoretical frameworks that we know play a part in students' ability and their diversity. For instance, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. What it says about a student's needs doesn't necessarily equate to diversity, but when we see a student and a certain lacking those certain needs, maybe homelessness, maybe child abuse at home, that is a particular diversity, and that student needs a particular support. Obviously supports outside of the classroom, but certainly supports cognitively for their brain to be able to get on with the instructional or the language, the academic instruction or language instruction. Certain sort of cognitive, socio-physical things need to be adjusted before that can take place. Struggling learners, there are things we can do for all struggling learners. And we have different people who struggle for different reasons. It might be language, it might be ability, other ability. It might be lack of background knowledge. I have no knowledge, point of reference. I mean, if I go into a really abstract, I have no point of reference for this lesson, might be about, I don't know, astrophysicists. I'm going to be lost. I'm going to need some background stuff before, or else I'm going to struggle. I don't care how, intelligent I am. There are things we can do to help struggling learners before instruction, during instruction, and after instruction takes place, which is why I tell you guys as we're reading the questions, and when you're reading the scenarios, the questions and the answer choices, I want you to be mindful. Do they use any time markers? Do they tell us what time this takes place in the lesson cycle, in the planning, in the unit, in the year, in the semester? What are they telling us time wise? Because we do different things at different times. We do different things before instruction, during instruction, and after instruction. We do things first, second, third. So pay attention to time. Ways in which our students, we can support our students that are struggling learners, varying our instructional techniques. That means you bringing diversity, and competency too is not just about the diversity that is in your students themselves. It is about you recognizing diversity and understanding you need different techniques, different diverse pathways for a student to walk to achieve the goal. And the goal is mastery of the learning objective. Varying your instructional techniques, developing lessons around your students' interests that will motivate them, their needs, their experience, that will motivate them. You needing to motivate them, this will motivate them. The fastest, quickest way to motivate students is listening to them and utilizing what interests them as a means to get them to participate in the learning process. You have no easier buy-in than me choosing something I'm already interested in. I'm already interested in then. So you've got that buy-in. And it's just following the steps further. That encouraging, supportive environment, no one will flourish, no one will learn in your classroom if they come in there and they say, Miss Sauceda doesn't like me. I know Miss Sauceda doesn't like me. I hope and I pray, and I kind of want to bet $1 million that none of my students can say Miss Sauceda didn't like me. That wasn't a thing that anyone could say. You left my classroom and you knew I liked you and I wanted you to succeed, and I was going to figure it out. We were going to figure it out. And I thought you could, do everything, change the world if need be. So being that encouraging, supportive environment, be that soft spot for one person for that person to have, for your students to have. And you won't be that for everyone. Some of your students don't need that. I've had many students, they were just my students. I could tell they had healthy homes. They just came in for the funny stories and learning about reading things and making connections. They didn't need me in other ways. Not all your students will need you in that way, but please be there if they do. Utilize cooperative learning and peer tutors. Be masterful. If you have whole students who are high oral language proficiency, super skilled in the content area, hook them up in their group work with somebody who is struggling, because it will help the both of them. When you can teach someone and help someone learn, you internalize that knowledge more deeply. Continue to teach content in small sequential steps. Frequently check for understanding. This is so important for our beginner English speakers. They don't have the language to say, I don't understand. I didn't get what you said. I'm confused. That's not in the language repertoire just yet. You need to check for understanding. You need to provide study aids and aids for clarification and aids for comprehension. Provide individualized materials when needed, and it will be needed, especially if you have beginner students. Audio and visual materials always. That means you're helping your audio preference, your orally preferenced students, your visually preference students, your tactile preference students, and then visual and audio helps with your ELL students, that helps with your special ed students. Breaking down into small sequential steps helps for all students, but it super helps for those with disabilities. It super helps for those with that are ELL students. So gifted and talented students, making sure that we take them into consideration and that we are being mindful to bring in things that they're interested in, things that resonate, and trying to find connections between real world implication and what they're learning, because GT students brains work in a different way. At like 6th or 7th grade, they kind of feel like they understood most of what's going on, and that school feels boring and sort of like they can get what they need to get and the rest of it is what. So it is our job to make it, a step more meaningful than just content instruction. How does this apply? Giving them tasks and a sense of, taking their knowledge further by helping someone else attain it, whether that someone be a special ed student or a gifted and talented, an English language learner, especially if they also speak that same home language, which happens very often in the Valley and in San Antonio. So we have a lot of ELL students that are Spanish speakers. Affective area. Nobody wants to feel like they don't belong, embarrassed, super shy, with low self-esteem, but that happens very often, whether they're not getting it at home. And we have to build, right? We have to build their confidence, their ability to cooperate with other people, to speak with other people. And so we're going to have these different affective characteristics, these different diversities within the characteristics of the affective area, in their self-esteem, in their confidence, in their time management, in their self-direction, their agency. That just means we have to give them opportunities to build self-esteem, to build confidence, to build and practice time management, to build and practice self-direction, to build and practice agency. So look for answer choices that will do these things, because it's best practice for you to do it. So we're going to jump these because these are our ELL, knowing how to implement that with your learning. And we're going to sort of jump to our questions. And I'm going to need your help remembering those of you who was here on Wednesday. Who can remember más o menos? Let me see. Did we do this one? Which of the following practices in middle school program would best accommodate the developmental characteristic needs of young adolescents? I feel like we did not do this one.
We did not do that one.
What about this is one? Okay. Which of the following should teachers consider when choosing a new technological tool to use in classroom instruction? I feel like we didn't do this one either. Maybe I went too far. I think I did. Okay, this is where ballet was the last one, right? We did this one. And so we'll just review this one. When showing ballet movements for the first time in a class, a dance teacher breaks down the movements into smaller segments. Which of the following best describes the teacher's reason for using this instructional approach? Now, whenever you are in the PPR exam, I want you to remember Miss Sauceda saying this when you see the scenario being about a science teacher or a ballet teacher or a PE teacher or an English language arts and reading. It's not about the content area. It is about the pedagogy. Pedagogically speaking, what are we talking about here? What are they asking us, and what keywords and phrases should we pay attention to in order to respond to this correctly? Come on, my little repeaters from last time. What do you need to highlight here? What's important for us to pay attention to?
First time in class.
Thank you. What did I say about a time marker? If they tell you a time, it's the first time. We're
It
doing a
always
ballet
sounds
movement,
like
and she breaks down smaller segments. And whenever they say best or most, you know, we're looking for, or there might be more than one reason, but not always. But what's the best reason for using this instructional support? Breaking it down. That's the approach she's using, right? The instructional approach she's using is.
Didn't he play for America?
He played on the Lakers thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, he played with Kobe, but that's like
All right,
his
guys.
Oh, okay.
What do we think the correct answer is? Normally, I want for you to, you know, do process of elimination. We have to promote learning for all students, to teach ballet vocabulary, to model the elegant style of ballet, and to teach emotional expression. What can you bet yourself $5 is not the reason she's doing, she's breaking it down into smaller segments.
B.
B, she's not teaching vocabulary at all. That's for sure not the right answer. Absolutely, we can bet ourselves $5. What else is she not doing this? What's not the reasoning behind it?
D is a dog.
D as in dog. She's not even talking about emotional expression, or she's actually broken down the like fluid movements into smaller segments. So no. What else?
C.
C. And of course,
Learning for all students.
promote learning for all students. Diversity, and that's all. Domain 1 is about all students. So we don't know what skill level these ballet students are at. If they've taken ballet at home, never taken it before, in order for the first time for everybody to get it, we've got to break it down into slower, smaller segments. Okay. Several students in a second grade physical education class are having difficulty reaching the basketball goal with their shots, even while using a youth-sized basketball. Which of the following options is most appropriate for the teacher to introduce to increase the student's success? All right, guys.
Second grade.
Thank you. What else?
Most appropriate.
Thank you. It's most appropriate.
Several students in a second grade after reaching the basketball goal with their shots, even while using the youth-sized basketballs. Which of the following options more appropriate for the teacher to introduce to increase the student success? Allowing students to
So
use
what's
a
the goal? What's
basketball,
the goal
lowering the
for
height
this
of the
question,
basket.
guys? What is the goal for the teacher in this scenario? What does she want to do? What is the goal for the teacher?
Improve the shot.
Improve student success with what?
Reach the basketball.
Reaching the basketball goal. That's what we need to do for second graders. Now, we've already introduced the youth-sized basketball. Let's see the other answer choices. Remember, I don't want you to just choose the one you think is right. I want to eliminate things we know are not right because they do not go with our keywords and phrases, and they do not achieve the goal that is expressed in the scenario or question. So we have A, allowing students to use a balloon instead of a basketball. B, lowering the height of the basket. C, raising the height of the basket. D, using a bouncy playground ball instead of a basketball. All right. So let's have a conversation. What do you guys think is something that we can sort of eliminate because you think that's not gonna achieve our goal?
C is in cat.
Thank you. Why can we bet ourselves C is not the right answer?
Raising the rim is not gonna help out at all, especially with second grade.
Right. They're already little shorties. Like raising the rim is going to make it worse. No, that's not a good idea. No. C is not the right answer.
Letter A.
Letter A. Exactly. Why would letter A not be it?
Using a balloon instead of a basketball. That's not
Like
gonna work at all.
that's not going to be, I mean, I don't know. That's going to be harder. I don't know anyone who can use a balloon as a basketball. So
Mhm.
I think it's a terrible idea. We're left with two. We're left with B and D. Now,
They're both look good. I mean, I wouldn't know which one to choose
okay.
because you're accommodating, making modifications, for the
Mhm.
second grade students. Lowering the height is one. Maybe using a bouncy playground ball that's gonna help, at the beginning, and then they can get the regular basketball. I don't know.
I like your thoughts. I like your thinking, guys. Anybody else want to jump in and say where they're leaning? What are you heading towards? Because more often than not, you're going to be left with two answer choices, and that's why they tell you most appropriate, right?
Yeah.
But guys,
Letter B.
if we are second graders and they told her they're second grade, they're just a little shorter, right? They have the U-size basketball. Having difficulty reaching the basketball goal. Remember, most of these questions, I want for you to think, I need to say true to the goal. The PE coach wants them to play basketball. They want them to get a basketball in the basketball goal, right? In the hoop, right? That's the goal. Not a playground ball, not a bouncy ball, not a balloon, a basketball. Now, they're already using the U-size basketball. The one of the two choices that is the best to stay in line with the goal, which is to make them be able to, reach the basketball goal with a U-size basketball, would be to lower the height of the basket, right? To accommodate their height instead of changing the game itself and removing the actual ball. Does everyone see why B would be a better answer than D?
Yes. But it kind of makes you think too, like, okay,
Absolutely.
we can.
Absolutely. And it's not like the PE coach doesn't have bouncy balls, he does, but it would take away from actually being basketball. If they just lowered the goal, they could still practice the skills with a basketball and remain on goal, accommodating to the diversity of this grade level. Any questions, guys? Thank you, Eric. Eric's saying it won't even fit. You can't even use the bounce ball. And that's not even why I was saying no. I'm just saying it's like, but yeah, I think you're right. They might be a little bit larger. Although they think they have some small ones too. Okay. Which of the following teacher actions would best support middle school students as they each explore their own identity? What are we looking for and what do we have to pay attention to?
Middle school.
Best support middle school students?
Best support
Yes, best support.
middle school. So that's important. The middle age kids. man, they're going through some things and they're exploring their own identity. So we're looking for the best support for these kids. Okay, we have A, breaking complex tasks down into several short segments to facilitate student comprehension, providing a variety of learning experiences to give students the opportunity to determine their strengths. C, including authentic learning experiences for students that are relevant to the curriculum. D, placing students in cooperative learning groups to give students an opportunity to collaborate. Now, I want you guys talking and not me about answer choices we are going to eliminate and bet ourselves $5 because we know this is not useful for the goal. The goal is to explore their identity, and we're trying to support that. Which one of these does that best?
I think we can eliminate A first.
A for sure. Tell me why, because you can, and you can bet yourself $10. Why?
It just doesn't jive with what the question is asking.
We're not
To me.
talking about student comprehension. We're talking about their own identity, helping them explore. This is not what we were talking about at super off topic, and it's not at all. No. A is safely out.
How about C?
Thank you. Why?
That are relevant to the curriculum.
Thank
That's
you.
awesome.
Nothing to do
Nothing
with
to do with
it.
that. Mhm.
Yes. Nothing. Nada que ver. Nothing. Okay. We're left with B and D.
I love B because it says it's providing variety of learning experiences, which is, they're exposed to a lot,
Mhm.
and then letter D, I like that one too, because it gives the students the opportunity to collaborate, but
I'm gonna highlight
it's not a
that.
group thing, it's their own.
Thank you. Yes, it's their own. You
Yay.
said it yourself. Good job.
I just
It's their
answered my
own.
own question.
You did. It's not a group thing. It's their
Yeah,
own.
it's
Thank
not
you.
a
Thank
group
you.
thing. Yeah,
Mhm.
those little keywords. Oh my gosh.
Yes, sir. It's all down to the keywords and phrases. One answer is better than the other one.
Awesome.
I mean, because obviously we want them to be in groups to collaborate and all that stuff, and obviously we want to include authentic learning experiences for the students that are relevant to, like, we want to do these things, right?
Yes.
All of them are great things for us to do, but none of them are with what we like they're asking and
question,
what the
yeah.
goal is. Yeah.
Own identity.
Yes. Excellent job, guys. All right. Which of the following should teachers consider when choosing a new technological tool to use in classroom instruction? I stole this question from the technology competency from our session from domain 3 because it applies to both. It is both diversity and technology. So what are they asking us?
Choose a new technological tool.
Yeah, it's new technology tool to use in classroom instruction. We want to know, what should we consider when choosing it? A, whether the student would be able to take the technology home with them. B, whether the technology is accessible to students with disabilities. C, whether the technology can be used for every future classroom activity. D, whether the teacher requires instructional training before properly using the technology. Okay, guys, what can we bet ourselves pretty confidently that's not the right answer?
A.
A, whether the student can take it home with them or not. That's not the thing that we should consider. And they might or they might not, but it's not something that we would like, that would be a deciding factor in us choosing a new technological tool to implement in class. So A's out. What else could we eliminate because it's not it?
D.
Which one?
D as in dog.
D, yeah. Whether the teacher requires instructional training before properly using the technology, that wouldn't be a deciding factor. Like, very often we need proper training, and that's not a big deal. We just get it and then we implement it. So that's not going to be like a deciding factor when we're choosing a new technological tool. Like, that's just a given that we're going to need instructional training. We don't know how to use everything that's out there. So we're left with B and C. So B says whether the technology is accessible to students with disabilities, and C is whether the technology can be used for every future classroom activity, guys. Which one of these two do you need to consider when you're going to implement a technological tool for instruction in your class that should be appropriate for all students?
B.
Thank
As in
you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We don't need the technology to be used for every classroom. I mean, there's no, I don't even know what, maybe the pencil you can use for every class, and that's a technology, but it's not new. So I don't know what technology you use for every single activity. There is not one. And that's not something you would even ask yourself. So, but what you would ask is, can my students with, or is this accessible to my students with disabilities? First and foremost. That for sure is going to be a deciding factor. All right. Which of the following learning styles, a type of diversity, does a lecture primarily accommodate? This is such an easy peasy lemon squeezy question, but guys, visual, auditory, tactile, social, emotional. Survey says
A.
A is the right answer. Did you say A is the right answer?
Yes.
No, a lecture. What's a lecture, guys?
Oh, B.
B, yeah, remember, a lecture is just speech. We're asking about the learning styles. This for sure is not a learning style. These three are. And B is the one that we listen. It's the oral skill, auditory. And lectures are primarily auditory. You know, you could have a lecture theoretically with visuals and whatnot, but primarily lectures accommodate auditory learners. And so that's not a good thing in a classroom with all different types of learners if you're only giving lectures. All right. C, which of the following practices in a middle school program would best accommodate the developmental characteristics and needs of young adolescents? What keywords and phrases, guys? I want to hear you say them.
Middle school.
For sure. Middle school, for
Developmental
sure.
characteristics.
This developmental characteristics should send off alarm bells and their needs, right? Of the young adolescents. And we want to best accommodate. So we have A, encouraging students to become involved in after-school sports activities. B, starting each day with a brief session of breathing and stretching exercises. C, designing instruction that provides regular opportunities for physical movement throughout the day. D, scheduling 1 or 2 extended periods every week for outdoor exercise activities. Okay, guys, let's use our process of elimination and get rid of the ones we can bet ourselves $5 are not the correct answer, because that's not going to best accommodate their developmental needs, the characteristics and needs.
A.
A, encouraging the students to become involved. It's not the best way to accommodate their developmental characteristics and differences. What else?
B.
B.
B, starting each day with a brief session of breathing and stretching exercises for the, I mean, I don't, that's, and then so you would just do that in the beginning, starting each day, each maybe kind, that's not going to be the best answer. Although there's nothing wrong with it, it's not going to accommodate best their developmental needs. And we're left with C and D. So what does survey say, guys?
D.
Which one?
C.
C.
So D is out and C is the correct answer. And we should. Like, the kids don't want to be sitting in their desks. I used to take my junior high and high school students all the time. Like, sometimes we would just go on like field trips. But to be honest with you, I don't want to be stuck in the classroom all day long, either. And so we would make go find a place and go read outside, or go on a scavenger hunt and make observations, and then come back and do a writing and make up a story. Like, finding ways to be active and thinking outside of the box, especially excuse me, especially for our middle-aged kids, especially for the boys. You will have such less like behavioral issues. Not that they're behavioral issues, but they like have anxiety. They have like so much energy at that age group and grade level. And so being mindful of that and not having just like a you sit in desk and I lecture type instruction, because you are doing a disservice to the growth and development of your students, and their cognitive success, to be honest with you. So sorry for my coughing, guys. I still have like a terrible cough from COVID, and I just want it to go away. Okay. All right. Miss Balmer often assigns cooperative group projects to support lesson objectives. With Marcos, a special education student, she is maintaining a direct and consistent behavior plan. But during a recent group project for math, she notices an increasing frequency in Marcos's outbursts. Which of the following steps should Miss Balmer take first to deal with Marcos's outbursts? All right. Okay. So, what keywords and phrases? What did we just read? Just remember, this is a critical reading exam. We have to critically read. So what are we understanding here? What's important keywords and phrase wise for us to take note of as we're reading the answer choices?
Increasing frequency of his outbursts.
Thank you. They are increasing with frequency, his outbursts. That's what we want to try to stop, right? We want to try to deal with the outbursts, and we want a step to do that. The best step, the first step. And whenever they give you first, second, third, last, I get weary because I know they've given you multiple steps. Many of the steps that you should take, they're going to be listed there. They asked you for the first one, what you need to do first. What else is important for us to be mindful of regarding this scenario as we read the answer choices?
He's a special ed student.
Thank you. The diversity that is there. He's a special ed student. And more importantly, she's maintaining a behavior plan. He's on a behavior plan. So she is working with him, right? And he's working to keep, and has been doing good if he's on this behavior plan and notices these outbursts. So let's take a look at what steps of the ones they've listed would best, be most appropriate for Marcos, given the information that we have, the keywords and phrases, and the goal, which is to decrease the outbursts. So A, ask parents for their recommendations on how to reduce the number of daily outbursts. B, requests that the special education teacher conduct a functional behavioral assessment for Marcos. C, share her concerns with Marcos and work with him to help decide on possible solutions. D, convene the ARD committee to reevaluate Marcos's current accommodations and modifications. Now, just to review, Marcos is special ed on a behavior plan that is consistent and direct, and is having some issues in a group project, a recent group project, and it's increasing with frequency. So let's take a look. What can we eliminate? Because that's the worst first step for you to take. And remember, it's got to be the first step. What
I'm
can we
gonna go
better
with
sub-
C.
You want to eliminate C?
Yeah.
Okay. How come?
Well, it says to share concerns with Marcos. Because I'm leaning towards A being more of the first step. But actually maybe it's the other way around.
Well, remember, our students are not things that we have to manage. They're humans. And so communication is key with our students. Like anytime I had a situation with a student, guess who the first person I'm talking to is?
The student.
Yes. Yes. Marcos, what's happening? I saw you got really frustrated. That's not like you. But that is the first step is you trying to figure out what is the issue. And I'm just going to go down these because you like sometimes it happens where students will choose like the correct answer to be the first that they eliminate. And that happens very often. And that's, which is why I tell you, like, always have to prove it to yourself that it isn't the best first, that like based on what we know for the students. How knowledgeable are the parents going to be to give you recommendations for their special ed student to reduce daily outbursts during instruction? How equipped do you think they're going to be to help you in that regard? I know it's a rhetorical question, but not very. Most of them not very. And so you wouldn't go there first. Certainly you want to have an open lines of communication and have conversations with them, but that wouldn't be the first place you would go to. You wouldn't go first immediately to request a functional behavior assessment. In fact, I wouldn't even request one. I want to do one myself because they're very easy to conduct. And all it means is that you're observing them, looking for things that are going to be triggering that behavior, things that happen before, things that happen shortly after the behavior, like a functional behavioral assessment to look at the root cause. And so for me, I would do the functional behavior myself, but I certainly wouldn't at first issue with Marcos, send him to someone else. And I absolutely would not convene the ARD because it's not even my job to convene the ARD. The special ed department convenes the ARD and there's a schedule. And unless it's at a detriment to the students and it's really become a thing where like the special ed teacher can't help and we really need to get together to see what's going in and get all these people to talk. But that certainly wouldn't be your first place to go. You would share your concerns with Marcos first. He's a human person, whatever grade. They didn't tell us what grade level he's in, but let's say he's in second grade. Something's bothering with second grade year old Marcos. And so we need to be that, leg of support for them first. Okay, guys. It's gonna be 12:30 in a little bit. Did you guys want to continue? Or oops, sorry, I didn't mean to stop sharing. Did you guys want to continue or pause here? Because we still have quite a few questions left. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Oof. 11 whole questions before we finish the diversity section. So I say we end it here, and on Wednesday we'll fully conclude diversity, and it'll give you guys a chance. I want you to do a deep dive of that ELL document, the one we were looking at. Let me go back to it really quickly before we go. To the ELPS instructional guide. It's TEA Gold. They don't often produce it, but this time they did. And I want you guys to give it a really deep reading, a critical reading, and all of your resources for ELLs are here. The different scaffolds for sheltered instruction here. Another useful document to help with the different interactions with vocabulary. Take a look at these things, and because the questions we'll be going over next time are going to be about ELPs. The bulk of them are going to be about identifying a student's writing level based on characteristics of their writing, or ways to support them if they're intermediate or beginners. So between now and Wednesday, please do a deep dive of your ELPS instructional tool. And I look forward to seeing you guys on Wednesday at 6:30. It's a pleasure as always. You guys are the real MVPs. Thank you so much for choosing teaching. It means so much to me that you spend an hour and 30 minutes of your Saturday and your Wednesdays to learn about this, to become better teachers. So thank you so much. And I will see you guys on Wednesday. Have a beautiful weekend, and see you then.